The crowd pushed past Lyra like she did not exist. Hundreds of different species filled the corridor of Waypoint Station, all busy with their own lives, their own problems. Nobody looked at the young dragon struggling to help her mother walk. Nobody offered to help. They just moved around the two massive creatures like water flowing around rocks in a stream. Pearl's white scales scraped against the metal floor. Each step took all her strength. Her daughter held her upright, one wing supporting the older dragon's weight. The albino dragon's breathing sounded wet and painful. Every few steps she stopped to rest. "Almost there, Mother," Lyra said. Her voice tried to sound hopeful, but her heart felt like ice. "Just a little further." Pearl nodded but could not speak. Her crystal heart, visible through the translucent scales of her chest, flickered with weak, irregular pulses. Once it had glowed bright and steady. Now it looked like a dying star. 3 medical centers had already refused to help. The first was run by the Aethari, beings made of living crystal who understood technology better than anyone. Their head doctor had examined Pearl for less than 10 minutes before shaking his geometric head. "The biocrystal matrix is collapsing. We cannot reverse this process. I am sorry." The second center belonged to the Nomine, a species famous for their advanced machinery and cybernetics. They had more tools, more scanners, more everything. The result was the same. Her organic and crystalline systems are failing together. This is beyond our capability to repair. The third and final center was operated by the Quill, masters of biological science. They could regrow limbs, cure diseases, extend lifespans by centuries. But when they looked at Pearl's dying heart, they only offered sympathy. "We work with biology or technology, not both merged so completely. Your mother has perhaps 2 days. Make her comfortable. We can provide pain medication, 2 days. 48 hours. Lyra refused to accept it. That was when she remembered the cargo hauler. 3 weeks ago, she had been loading supplies at a different station. The hauler, a rough-looking Nomine with scarred metal plating, had been complaining about his ship. "Damn thing was falling apart," he had said. "Every mechanic I took it to said I needed a new drive core. 20,000 credits. Then someone told me about this human on Waypoint Station. Fixed it in 2 days with spare parts and something he called duct tape. Cost me 500 credits? A human?" Lyra had asked. "Yeah, crazy species. They fix things nobody else can fix. Not because they are smarter. They just think different. Weird, but it works." Lyra had not thought about that conversation again until yesterday, when the Quill doctor had told her mother was dying. Now pulling up the station directory on her datapad while holding her mother upright, she searched for human businesses. Only one result appeared: Garrett's Garage, Repairs and Restorations. The address led them to the industrial section of the station, far from the clean medical centers and fancy shops. The corridor here smelled like oil and hot metal. Machinery hummed behind closed doors. Pearl stumbled and Lyra caught her before she fell. "Why are we here?" Pearl whispered. Her voice sounded like wind through broken glass. "Trust me, Mother. Please just trust me." The garage door was open. Inside, the space looked chaotic. Parts of machines hung from the ceiling. Workbenches overflowed with tools Lyra did not recognize. Cables snaked across the floor. In the center of it all, someone lay underneath a small alien speeder, only their legs visible. The sound of metal on metal echoed from beneath the vehicle. Lyra cleared her throat. No response. She tried again, louder. Still nothing. Finally, she spoke loud enough to be heard over the noise. "Excuse me. I need help." The work stopped. After a moment, the person underneath the speeder rolled out on a small wheeled platform. A human male, maybe 40 years old, covered in grease and oil. He had short dark hair turning gray at the temples, tired eyes, and calloused hands. He stood up slowly, wiping his hands on a rag that looked even dirtier than his hands. He looked at Lyra. Then he looked at Pearl, who was barely standing, leaning heavily on her daughter. The human's eyes moved to Pearl's chest where her dying crystal heart flickered weakly. He stared at it for several long seconds. Lyra waited for him to tell them to leave. Waited for him to say he could not help. Waited for the same words she had heard 3 times already. Instead, the human tossed the rag onto a workbench and walked closer. He moved carefully, not making any sudden movements that might frighten them. When he spoke, his voice was calm and steady. "That's a hell of a way to arrive for an appointment. I'm Garrett. What seems to be the problem?" Lyra felt something she had not felt in days. A tiny spark of hope. My mother is dying, she said simply. 3 medical centers told us there is nothing they can do. Her biocrystal heart is failing. She has maybe 2 days left. Lyra paused, suddenly feeling foolish. What was she doing here? This was a mechanic's garage, not a hospital. Someone told me humans can fix things others cannot. I know this sounds crazy, but I did not know where else to go. Garrett looked at Pearl again. The old dragon's white scales were dull, cracked in places. Her breathing came in short, painful gasps. The crystal heart in her chest pulsed irregularly, its light growing dimmer even as they stood there. Most beings would have stepped back, would have made excuses, would have sent them away gently but firmly. Garrett did none of these things. He walked up to Pearl and looked directly at her, not at Lyra. "Ma'am, I'm going to need to take a closer look at your heart." "May I?" Pearl managed a weak nod. Garrett moved to her side, studying the visible crystal through her scales. He did not touch her yet, just observed. His eyes were focused, intense. He tilted his head, looked from different angles. After a minute, he pulled a small scanning device from his pocket and held it near Pearl's chest. The device beeped and displayed information Lyra could not read. "How long have you had symptoms?" Garrett asked. 6 months, Pearl whispered. "But worse the last 2 weeks. Any exposure to exotic radiation? Spatial anomalies? Quantum storms?" Pearl's eyes widened slightly. "Yes, about 4 years ago. I was navigating through an unstable region of space." Garrett nodded slowly, still studying the scanner. He made a thoughtful sound in his throat, then looked up at Lyra. "Your mother's condition. The medical centers that examined her. What exactly did they say was wrong?" Lyra pulled out her datapad and showed him the reports. Garrett read quickly, his expression growing more focused with each word. When he finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "They are not wrong," he said finally. "The biocrystal matrix is failing. The cascade has already begun. Without intervention, she will not survive more than a couple of days." Lyra felt her hope dying again. Here it was. The refusal. The sympathy. The apology. But Garrett was not finished. "However," he said, looking between Lyra and Pearl, "they all made the same mistake. They treated this as a natural failure. It is not. Your mother's heart was damaged by radiation, and it has been slowly breaking down ever since. They tried to fix it like it was wearing out from age. That approach cannot work. Can you fix it?" Lyra asked, barely breathing. Garrett was quiet. He looked at Pearl again, then at his garage full of tools and parts and half-finished projects. When he spoke, his voice was serious but not unkind. "I have never worked on a Velenth before. I am a mechanic and former surgeon, not a specialist in your species' biology, but I have repaired crystalline power cores and organic systems separately. I understand how both work." He paused. "I cannot promise anything. What I can promise is that I will try if you want me to, but I need to research your species' physiology first. Understand exactly what I am dealing with. Give me 3 hours, 3 hours. Not a refusal. Not false promises. Just honesty and a willingness to try." Pearl looked at her daughter. Something passed between them. A silent conversation that only family could have. Then Pearl turned back to Garrett. 3 hours, she agreed. "We will wait." Garrett nodded once. "Rosie, we have work to do." A voice came from speakers mounted in the ceiling, female and slightly sarcastic. "A dragon. You want to repair a dragon. This should be interesting." "Not repair," Garrett corrected, already moving toward a computer terminal. "Save." Garrett typed faster than Lyra had ever seen anyone type. His fingers flew across the keyboard while screens filled with information about Velenth biology, crystalline structures, and biomechanical systems. The AI named Rosie pulled up research papers, medical journals, and technical specifications. Some documents were in languages Lyra recognized. Others used symbols she had never seen before. Pearl had collapsed onto the garage floor, too weak to stand any longer. Lyra sat beside her mother, one wing draped protectively over the older dragon's body. Every few minutes, Pearl's breathing would catch and Lyra's heart would freeze with fear. But then her mother would breathe again, and they would wait a little longer. "This is fascinating," Rosie said from the speakers. Her tone suggested she found many things fascinating, usually in a dry, academic way. The Velenth biocrystal heart is simultaneously an organic organ and a power generation system. It processes bioenergy while also creating a field that allows space survival. Truly remarkable engineering. "Evolution, not engineering," Lyra corrected quietly. Is there a difference? Rosie asked. Both solve problems through iterative improvement. Garrett did not participate in this conversation. He was too focused on his screens, occasionally making notes on a datapad with a stylus. Sometimes he would pull up a schematic of something mechanical and compare it to an image of Velanth anatomy. His face showed intense concentration. After an hour, he stood and walked over to Pearl. He knelt beside her, moving slowly and carefully. I need to ask you some questions. They might seem strange. Pearl nodded weakly. When you are healthy, can you feel your heartbeat? Yes, it is like a vibration through my whole body. Does it change frequency based on your activity? Yes, faster when I fly or exert myself. Slower when I rest. And the crystal part. Can you consciously influence it at all? Pearl thought about this. Not directly, but I can feel it respond to my emotions, my physical state. When I am calm, it is steady. When I am stressed, it becomes erratic. Garrett nodded, making more notes. One more question. Before the radiation exposure, did you ever need maintenance or medical care for your heart? No, never. It was perfectly healthy for 200 years. Garrett stood and returned to his computer. He pulled up more documents, cross-referencing information at a speed that made Lyra dizzy just watching. Finally, after another 30 minutes, he stopped. He sat back in his chair and stared at the main screen for a long moment. Rosie, probability analysis, he said. Of what? The AI responded. Success rate for the procedure I am considering. A pause. I need to know what procedure you are considering. Garrett explained his idea. He spoke quickly, using technical terms that Lyra barely understood. Something about hybrid support systems, cardiac assist technology, crystalline resonance harmonizers, and fusion cells. When he finished, Rosie was silent for several seconds. For an AI, that was a very long time. 34% chance of success, Rosie said finally. Assuming everything goes perfectly, the risk of catastrophic failure is significant. What did the medical centers give her? 0%. She was declared untreatable, so 34 is better than 0. Mathematically, yes. Ethically, I cannot advise you. This is beyond my parameters. Garrett turned to look at Lyra and Pearl. He stood and walked over to them, then sat on the floor across from the two dragons. His posture was relaxed, but his eyes were serious. I think I can help your mother, he said. But you need to understand what that means. Lyra leaned forward. Tell me everything. The radiation damaged your mother's biocrystal heart at a fundamental level. The crystalline and organic parts are failing together, each breakdown accelerating the other. The medical centers tried to treat it as natural degradation. They tried to repair or replace the damaged parts. That cannot work because the damage is not structural, it is systemic. So what can work? Lyra asked. I cannot fix her heart. Not completely. What I can do is create a support system. Think of it like a bridge. The bridge does not replace the river, but it lets you cross it. Garrett pulled out his datapad and showed them a schematic. I can install a device that will assist her heart, taking over some of the functions while her natural systems continue to work. It is partly human cardiac technology and partly crystalline resonance equipment. Pearl studied the schematic with tired eyes. That is a machine. You want to put a machine in my chest? Yes, but not replacing your heart. Working with it. The human part helps pump and circulate. The crystalline part helps maintain the energy field you need for space survival. Together they support your natural heart while it heals. Can it heal? Pearl asked. Or will I need this machine forever? Garrett met her eyes honestly. I do not know. Maybe your heart will recover enough to work on its own again. Maybe the support system becomes permanent. But permanent and alive is better than the alternative. Pearl was quiet. Lyra could see her mother thinking, weighing the choice. Finally, the old dragon spoke. What are the risks? This was when Garrett's expression became even more serious. The installation has to be done while you are conscious. You will need to help regulate your own bioenergy during the procedure. I cannot lie to you, it will be extremely painful. Your body will fight the foreign technology at first. If your heart stops during installation, I cannot restart it. If the resonance frequencies do not match correctly, the crystalline parts of your biology could shatter. And the 34% success rate? Pearl asked. That is Rosie's calculation. She is usually pessimistic. But yes, there is a 66% chance this does not work. Lyra felt sick. That is terrible odds. It is, Garrett agreed. But it is better than certain death in 2 days. And I promise you I will do everything in my power to make it work. Pearl looked at her daughter. In that look, Lyra saw everything: love, fear, hope, regret for all the things they would not get to do together if this failed. Pride in the daughter who had fought so hard to save her. "Do it," Pearl said. "Mother, maybe we should think about this more," Lyra started to say. "No." Pearl's voice was weak but firm. "I am dying, Lyra. Doing nothing is not thinking about it more. It is just giving up. This human is offering me a chance. I will take it." Garrett nodded once. "Then we start now. Every hour we wait makes it harder." He stood and began pulling equipment from various parts of his garage. "Rosie, I need you to synthesize a resonance harmonic profile for Pearl's specific crystal structure. Use the scan data we collected." "Working," Rosie replied. Garrett moved through his garage with purpose, gathering what he needed. He pulled down pieces of equipment from shelves, tested devices, sterilized tools. He worked with the efficiency of someone who had done complex procedures many times before. Lyra watched him prepare and felt her fear growing. "You said you were a surgeon before," she said. "What kind?" Garrett did not stop working as he answered. "Trauma surgeon. I worked in emergency medicine on Earth for 15 years. Then I worked on colony ships for another 5 years. I have probably performed 1,000 procedures under terrible conditions with inadequate equipment." He paused to test a device that hummed when activated. "But I left that life. Too much politics. Too many administrators more worried about liability than saving lives. I came here to work with machines because machines do not have bureaucracy." "But you will try to save my mother." Garrett looked at her then. "Your mother is not bureaucracy. She is someone who needs help. That is what I trained for, even if I tried to walk away from it." Something in his voice made Lyra ask the next question carefully. "Why did you really leave surgery?" Garrett was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer. "I lost someone, my wife. She had a condition the doctor said was incurable. They told her to make arrangements, say goodbye. I refused to accept it. I built her a custom life support system in our apartment, using equipment I bought, borrowed, or built myself. The hospital administrators found out and threatened to revoke my medical license for unauthorized treatment. What did you do?" "I quit. I took care of her myself. That system gave us 2 more years together. 2 years of talking, laughing, living. The day she finally passed, she was holding my hand, telling me she loved me. No hospital room. No machines beeping. Just us." He returned to his preparations. "I could not save her forever, but I gave us more time. Sometimes that is enough." Lyra understood then. This was not just about saving her mother. This was Garrett doing what he believed was right, regardless of the rules or the odds. Pearl's breathing became more labored. Her crystal heart flickered, dimmed, then brightened again. The cycles were becoming more erratic. Time was running out. Garrett finished his preparations and came back to Pearl. "I am ready." "Are you?" The old dragon looked at the human, then at her daughter. "Yes, then let us begin." Pearl lay on a reinforced platform that Garrett had built quickly from materials around his garage. The platform was large enough for her massive body and strong enough to support her weight. Lyra stood beside her mother, holding one of her claws. Neither of them spoke. There was nothing left to say. Garrett worked around them, placing equipment carefully. Each piece had a purpose, though Lyra did not understand most of them. There were monitors showing lines and numbers, machines that hummed at different frequencies, tools that looked medical and tools that looked mechanical. All of it was focused on saving one life. "Rosie, status check," Garrett said as he worked. Resonance harmonizer calibrated to Pearl's crystal structure. Cardiac assist device charged and ready. Fusion cell providing backup power. All systems operational. The AI paused. "I am still calculating only 34% success probability." "Noted," Garrett replied. He did not sound discouraged. He sounded focused. He came to stand beside Pearl's head. "I am going to explain each step before I do it. If you need me to stop at any point, tell me immediately. Understand?" "Yes," Pearl said. Her voice was barely a whisper now. "First, I need to create an access point to your heart. Your scales there are already thin because of your condition, but I will still need to make a small incision. You will feel pressure and some pain." Pearl nodded. Garrett took a tool that looked like a surgical laser and adjusted the settings. He pressed it against Pearl's chest where the crystal heart glowed weakly beneath her scales. The tool hummed. Pearl tensed but did not cry out. After 30 seconds, Garrett removed the tool. A small opening now showed the crystal heart directly, pulsing irregularly. Good, Garrett said. Next step. I need to attach monitoring leads directly to your heart's surface. This will feel strange but should not hurt. He took several thin wires with small pads on the ends. One by one, he carefully placed them on different parts of the exposed crystal. Each time he attached one, Pearl's breathing changed rhythm slightly. Her body was reacting to the foreign objects. The monitors around them came alive with information. Lines jumped and fell. Numbers changed rapidly. Rosie began speaking in a steady stream of data that Lyra could not follow. Heart rate erratic, bioenergy fluctuating, crystal resonance at 43% normal. Organic tissue degradation visible in the lower chambers. Garrett studied the monitors while his hands kept working. I see it. Pearl, I need you to try to calm your heart. Think about something peaceful, something that makes you feel safe. Pearl closed her eyes. After a moment, some of the lines on the monitors became slightly less chaotic. Not much, but enough. Better, Garrett said. He picked up another device, this one looking more mechanical than medical. It was about the size of a human fist, made of metal and crystal components merged together. This is the cardiac assist device. I am going to place it against your heart and secure it there. When I activate it, you will feel it begin to work with your natural heartbeat. It will be uncomfortable at first. Do it, Pearl said. Garrett positioned the device carefully against the crystal heart. He used some kind of medical adhesive to hold it in place, then attached several connectors from the device to the monitoring leads already in place. His hands were steady, precise. No wasted movements, no hesitation. Lyra, he said without looking away from his work, I need you to maintain physical contact with your mother. Place your claw on her shoulder and do not let go no matter what happens. Your bioenergy field will help stabilize hers during the activation. Lyra did as instructed. Her claw rested on her mother's shoulder, feeling the weak pulse of energy that flowed through all Valinth. It felt wrong, irregular, like music played with missing notes. Garrett picked up a control pad. Activating in 3, 2, 1, he pressed a button. The device on Pearl's heart hummed to life. For a moment, nothing else happened. Then Pearl's entire body went rigid. Her claws dug into the platform. Her wings spread involuntarily. A sound came from her throat that was part scream, part roar. The monitors went crazy. Alarms started beeping. The numbers jumped wildly. Hold her, Garrett shouted. He was working frantically now, adjusting settings on the control pad. Rosie, compensate for the resonance spike. Compensating, the AI responded. The humming sound changed pitch. Lyra held her mother's shoulder tighter, pushing her own bioenergy toward Pearl, trying to share her strength. She could feel her mother's pain through their connection, could feel the foreign device trying to work with a system that was fighting against it. Pearl, listen to my voice, Garrett said, his tone cutting through the chaos. Your body is rejecting the device. You need to accept it. Think of it as part of you. Let it help you. Pearl's eyes opened, wild with pain and fear. Her breathing came in gasps. The crystal heart flickered rapidly, threatening to stop entirely. I cannot, she gasped. It hurts. It is wrong. I know, Garrett said. I know it hurts. But you are stronger than the pain. You navigated through quantum storms. You survived exotic radiation. You raised a daughter alone. This is just one more impossible thing you can survive. Something in his words reached Pearl. Or maybe it was just the will to live. Her body relaxed slightly. The monitors showed the chaos beginning to organize into patterns, still abnormal but less catastrophic. Garrett's hands flew across the controls. Rosie, increase harmonization by 3%. That is outside safe parameters. Do it anyway. The humming changed again. Pearl groaned but did not scream. The device on her heart began to pulse in rhythm with her natural heartbeat, sometimes leading, sometimes following, finding a balance between support and independence. Slowly, over several minutes that felt like hours, the monitors stabilized. Pearl's breathing evened out. The crystal heart still flickered, still looked weak, but it was working. The device was helping it work. Garrett watched the monitors with intense focus. Heart rate stabilizing. Bioenergy approaching 60% normal. Crystal resonance improving. He looked at Pearl. How do you feel? Like I was hit by a cargo ship, Pearl said weakly. But alive. That is good enough for now. Garrett did not smile, but relief showed in his eyes. But we are not finished. The device is helping, but it needs a power source. Right now it is running on internal batteries that will last maybe an hour. We need to install the fusion cell and connect everything together properly. More cutting? Pearl asked. Yes, and more pain. I am sorry. Pearl looked at Lyra. Her daughter's eyes were wet with tears, but she nodded. We have come this far, Pearl said. Finish it. What followed was the longest hour of Lyra's life. Garrett worked with absolute concentration, making precise cuts, installing components, connecting systems that should never work together but somehow did. He talked through each step, his voice calm even when his hands moved quickly to address problems. Twice, Pearl's heart nearly stopped. Twice, Garrett did something with the controls that brought her back. He explained it as he worked, something about using the device to temporarily take over heart functions completely, then gradually returning control to Pearl's natural systems. The fusion cell installation was the worst part. It had to be placed inside Pearl's chest cavity, connected directly to her bioenergy system. When Garrett made the connections, Pearl screamed despite her best efforts. The pain was beyond anything physical. It was her body's energy system being forced to accept something completely foreign. Garrett's face showed strain. Almost done. Just a few more seconds, but then something went wrong. The monitors showed a dangerous spike. Pearl's body began shaking uncontrollably. The fusion cell was generating too much power, overwhelming her weakened systems. Shut down. Shut down now! Rosie's voice carried actual alarm. Garrett did not shut down. Instead, he grabbed a cable from the control system and jammed it into a port on his own neck. His eyes went wide. His body jerked. He had connected himself directly to the network, his own nervous system now bridging the gap between the human technology and Pearl's Velenth biology. Garrett, your neural system cannot handle this, Rosie shouted. You are experiencing sympathetic pain feedback. I know, Garrett gasped. Blood trickled from his nose. Adjust the harmonization through my interface. Use my biofeedback to calibrate. For terrible seconds, Garrett and Pearl shared the pain. The human mechanic's body shook as badly as the dragon's. Whatever he was feeling, it was clearly agony. But his hand stayed on the control pad, making tiny adjustments even as he suffered. Then suddenly everything clicked into place. The shaking stopped. The monitors showed patterns that were still unusual but stable. The fusion cell's power output smoothed into a steady flow. Pearl's crystal heart glowed brighter than it had in months. Supported by the device, powered by the fusion cell, all of it working together in an impossible harmony. Garrett pulled the cable from his neck port and collapsed to his knees. He was pale, sweating, bleeding from his nose, but he was smiling slightly. It worked. Pearl's eyes were clear and focused for the first time since they arrived. She took a deep breath, then another. I can breathe, she said with wonder. Really breathe. Not just survive, Lyra was crying openly now. Mother? I am here, daughter. I am still here. Garrett climbed slowly to his feet, using a workbench for support. He checked the monitors one more time, then nodded with satisfaction. Your heart is stable. The support system is functioning at 87% efficiency. The fusion cell is providing steady power. You are going to live. Pearl turned her massive head to look at the human who had saved her life. You nearly died just now, connecting directly to the system like that. But I did not die, Garrett said, and neither did you. 3 days passed like a dream. Pearl slept most of the first day, her body recovering from the trauma of the procedure. When she woke, she was hungry for the first time in weeks. Garrett had researched Velenth dietary needs and arranged for proper food to be delivered. Watching her mother eat with actual appetite made Lyra cry again. The garage had been transformed into a recovery room. Garrett moved most of his equipment to the sides, creating space for Pearl to rest comfortably. He set up monitors that tracked her heart function constantly. Every few hours, he would check the readings, adjust the device slightly, and make notes on his datapad. Lyra rarely left her mother's side. She slept on the floor next to Pearl, one wing always touching the older dragon. Sometimes she would wake in the night to find Garrett still awake, studying his screens or making small adjustments to the support system. On the second day, Pearl was strong enough to sit up. The improvement was remarkable. Her scales, while still showing signs of her illness, had regained some of their luster. The crystal heart in her chest now pulsed with steady, regular light. The device attached to it hummed quietly, a sound that had become oddly comforting. "How do you feel?" Garrett asked during one of his checkups. Pearl considered the question carefully. "Different. I can feel the device working with my heart, not against it anymore. It is strange knowing there is human technology inside me, but also good, like having a helping hand that never gets tired." "That is exactly what it is," Garrett said. He showed her a monitor display. "Your natural heart is doing about 60% of the work now. The device handles the other 40%. As you heal, we hope your heart takes on more of the load. But even if it does not, this is sustainable long-term." "Long-term," Pearl repeated. "I was told I had 2 days. Now I have long-term." On the third day, word began to spread through Waypoint Station. Dragons were not common in this part of space, and an albino dragon was extraordinary. People had noticed when Lyra brought her dying mother through the corridors. Now rumors circulated that the human mechanic had somehow saved her. Other humans who lived on the station started appearing at the garage. They brought food, offered help, asked if Garrett needed anything. A human woman named Nora, who ran a small restaurant, brought enough meals to feed all 3 of them for days. An older human male named Dennis, who worked in station maintenance, offered to help with any heavy lifting or equipment moving. "We take care of our own," Dennis said simply when Garrett tried to refuse the help. "And you are helping people, which means you are doing humanity proud. Let us support you." Lyra watched these interactions with fascination. The humans had a sense of community she had not seen among other species. They helped each other without expecting payment or favors in return. They were proud of Garrett not because he was making money or gaining status, but because he was doing good work. On the afternoon of the third day, a ship docked at the station. A very expensive ship, the kind that only wealthy individuals or important organizations owned. Shortly after, 3 beings entered the garage without knocking or announcing themselves. They were Athari, crystalline beings that reflected light in rainbow patterns. The lead one, whose geometric body suggested high rank, looked around the cluttered garage with obvious distaste. When they saw Pearl resting comfortably, their body language showed shock. "This is impossible," the Athari said. Their voice was melodic but cold. "We examined this patient 3 days ago. She was dying. Now she appears stable and recovering." Garrett looked up from his workbench where he was building some kind of monitoring device. "She is stable. The biocrystal heart has been supported with a hybrid assist system." "A hybrid system? Designed and installed by a human mechanic?" The Athari's tone dripped with skepticism. "We are the leading experts in crystalline biology. If we could not save her, how did you?" "Different approach," Garrett said simply. He did not stop working. "You tried to fix what was broken. I built something to work alongside what was failing. Show us your methods. We need to understand how this was achieved." "No." The Athari went very still. "Excuse me?" Garrett put down his tools and turned to face them fully. "I said no. Pearl is my patient. Her medical information and treatment details are private unless she chooses to share them. We are accredited medical professionals. We have the authority to review any cases within our specialty. You have authority in your medical centers. This is my garage. Here I make the rules. And my rule is patient privacy comes first." The lead Athari's body began to glow with agitation. "You are being unreasonable. This could be a breakthrough for treating Velenth heart conditions across the galaxy. You cannot keep this information secret for petty reasons." "I am not keeping it secret. I am respecting my patient's right to choose. If Pearl wants to share her medical details with you, she can. But that is her decision, not yours and definitely not mine to make for her." The Athari turned to Pearl. "Surely you understand the importance of this. Other Velenth could benefit from this treatment. Would you deny them help?" Pearl had been watching this exchange quietly. Now she spoke, her voice stronger than it had been in months. "I understand perfectly. You told me I was dying and to make peace with it. You gave up. This human did not give up. He risked his own safety to save me. And now you want to learn from him as if you have some right to his knowledge? We are trying to advance medical science." "You are trying to take credit," Pearl said flatly. "I know how your medical institute works. You would publish papers, claim the breakthrough as your own, and probably never mention the human mechanic who actually did the work. The answer is no. If I share my treatment details, it will be when and how I choose, not because you demand it." The Athari were silent for a moment. Then the leader spoke again, their tone shifting to barely concealed anger. "This is not over. We will file a formal complaint with the station authorities. A mechanic practicing medicine without proper credentials is surely against regulations. File whatever you want, Garrett said. I saved a life. That is all I need to justify my actions. The Athari left, their crystalline bodies chiming with agitation as they walked. When they were gone, Lyra released a breath she did not know she was holding. They will make trouble for you, she said. Let them try. Garrett returned to his work. I learned a long time ago that doing the right thing often makes people angry. The ones who get angriest are usually the ones who benefit from things staying the same. Later that evening, after Pearl had fallen asleep, Lyra found Garrett on the small observation deck attached to his garage. He was drinking something hot from a cup and staring out at the stars visible through the station's transparent panels. Can I ask you something? Lyra said. Of course. Why did you really help us? You could have turned us away. It would have been easier, safer. Garrett sipped his drink before answering. Do you know what I miss most about practicing medicine? Lyra shook her head. The moment when a patient opens their eyes and realizes they are going to live. When they were scared and in pain and facing death, and then suddenly they are not anymore. That look in their eyes. That is why I became a surgeon. Not for the money or the status. For that moment. But you left medicine. I left the system. The bureaucracy, the politics, the administrators who cared more about liability than lives. But I never stopped caring about that moment. When you walked into my garage with your dying mother, I saw that same fear in your eyes. I saw a chance to create that moment again. How could I walk away from that? Lyra looked out at the stars. My mother is albino. Do you know what that means for Velenth? I have read about it. Rare genetic condition. Some cultural stigma attached. More than stigma. She was cast out. Our people believed albino Velenth were unlucky, cursed. She lost her position as a navigator, lost her friends, lost almost everything. Only my father stood by her. When he died, she had only me. That must have been hard. It taught me something, though. It taught me that being different does not mean being less. My mother is the strongest person I know. She survived prejudice, loss, illness, and now a procedure that had a 34% success rate. She survived because she never gave up, and because you did not give up on her. Garrett was quiet for a moment. Your mother is remarkable, but so are you. You brought her here when 3 medical centers said it was hopeless. That takes courage. Or desperation. Sometimes they are the same thing. Sometimes desperation gives us the courage to try impossible things. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Somewhere out there, other Velenth navigated through space, probably never knowing about the albino dragon who had defied death in a cluttered garage on a frontier station. But Lyra knew, and she knew that because of one human mechanic, she still had her mother. Inside the garage, Pearl slept peacefully. Her crystal heart pulsed with steady light, supported by human technology and powered by a fusion cell that used to be a workbench battery. It should not have worked. By all logic and conventional medical wisdom, it should have failed. But it did work. Because sometimes the most important thing was not having the most advanced knowledge or the best credentials. Sometimes the most important thing was simply refusing to give up, caring enough to try and being willing to think differently. Garrett had taught Lyra that lesson without meaning to. Now watching her mother breathe easily in sleep, Lyra wondered what else this strange human might teach her if she stayed and learned from him. Garrett, she said quietly, would you teach me how to do what you do? He looked at her with surprise. You want to learn mechanics? I want to learn how to help people the way you helped my mother. I was going to be a navigator like her. But now I think I want to do something different. Something that matters. Garrett smiled, the first real smile she had seen from him. Everything matters if you care enough about it. But yes, I will teach you, on one condition. What condition? You teach me about navigation and Velenth culture. If I am going to help more of your people, I should understand them better. Deal? Lyra extended her claw. Garrett shook it with his much smaller hand. It was an awkward gesture between species with very different appendages, but it felt right. Deal, Lyra said. 2 weeks after Pearl's procedure, a luxury ship arrived at Waypoint Station. It was the kind of vessel that announced wealth and status before docking was even complete. The hull gleamed with expensive metals. The design spoke of advanced Velenth engineering. When it docked, station security cleared the surrounding area immediately. Lyra was helping Garrett organize medical supplies when Rosie announced the arrival. Incoming delegation. 5 Velenth, all showing high-rank identification codes. They are requesting an immediate meeting with Pearl. Pearl, who had been resting in the corner of the garage while reading something on a datapad, looked up sharply. Who specifically? Rosie displayed the names and titles. Pearl went very still when she saw them. The High Navigation Council. And Talon is with them. Who is Talon? Garrett asked. Someone I have not seen in 40 years. Pearl's voice carried complicated emotions. Someone who was my closest friend before I was cast out for being albino. Someone who chose their career over defending me when I needed them most. Lyra moved protectively closer to her mother. You do not have to see them. Yes, I do. The council does not travel like this unless something important is happening. Pearl stood, moving with grace that had been impossible just weeks ago. The hybrid support system in her chest hummed quietly. Let them in. 5 Velenth entered the garage moments later. 4 were clearly elders, their scales marked with patterns that indicated age and experience. The 5th was silver-scaled and moved with the dignity of someone who had spent decades in positions of authority. This was Talon. The 4 council members looked around the garage with barely concealed disdain. The 5th, Talon, looked only at Pearl. Their expression was complex and hard to read. Pearl, Talon said. The single word carried weight. Talon. Pearl's voice was neutral, giving nothing away. One of the council elders, a gold-scaled Velenth with deep blue markings, spoke formally. We have come because we received reports of an albino Velenth recovering from crystal heart failure. Such a thing should be impossible. Yet here you stand, clearly alive and healthy. I am alive because of this human. Pearl indicated Garrett with a wing gesture. Garrett saved my life when 3 medical centers told me to prepare for death. He designed and installed a hybrid support system that allows my heart to function. The council members looked at Garrett with obvious skepticism. One of them, a red-scaled elder, spoke dismissively. A human mechanic succeeded where trained Velenth medical professionals failed? Unlikely. Perhaps your condition was misdiagnosed. It was not, Pearl said firmly. I was examined by the Aetheri, the Nomine, and the Quill. All agreed I had perhaps 2 days to live. Garrett gave me my life back. The gold-scaled elder addressed Garrett directly. We would like to understand what you did. The council is concerned about several other Velenth who have developed similar heart conditions. If your treatment is effective, we need to know the details. Garrett crossed his arms. And if I share those details, what happens then? We would establish proper medical protocols and train qualified professionals to perform the procedure. Lives could be saved. That sounds reasonable, Garrett said, but it does not answer my question. What happens to me? The council members exchanged glances. Finally, the red-scaled one spoke. You would be compensated for your time and knowledge. Perhaps a consulting contract. We would, of course, need to verify your credentials and ensure you followed proper medical ethics in Pearl's case. In other words, you want to take what I learned through trial and risk, verify that I am qualified enough for you, and then let your own doctors take credit for the breakthrough. We would not phrase it that way. How would you phrase it? Before they could answer, Pearl stepped forward. Her voice carried authority that made even the council elders pay attention. Let me phrase it differently. You are here because an albino Velenth, someone your culture considers cursed and unlucky, survived what should have killed her. You are here because that survival was achieved by a human, a species many of you dismiss as crude and unsophisticated. You are uncomfortable because it challenges everything you believe about your own superiority. Pearl, that is not fair, Talon said quietly. Is it not? Pearl looked at her old friend directly. When I was declared albino and the prejudice began, you said nothing. When I lost my position as Master Navigator, you said nothing. When I was forced out of Velenth society because of something I could not control, you chose your career over our friendship. You said nothing then. Why speak now? Talon's silver scale seemed to dull with shame. Because I was wrong. Because I have regretted my silence for 40 years. Because when I heard you were dying, I realized I had wasted decades being a coward when I should have been your friend. The garage was silent. Even the hum of equipment seemed subdued. Pearl stared at Talon, processing words that had clearly been waiting a long time to be spoken. The council did not just come to understand Garrett's technique. Talon continued. We came to offer you something. A position as Master Instructor at the High Navigation Academy, teaching the next generation of navigators. It is a position of great honor. Why now? Pearl asked. What changed? The gold-scaled elder spoke. You changed. You survived. Your survival proves that albino Velenth are not cursed or weak. You are proof that our prejudices were wrong. The council acknowledges this and wishes to make amends. Lyra could not stay quiet any longer. Make amends? You cast her out. You made her life difficult for 40 years. Now that she survived something impossible, suddenly she is worthy of respect? That is not making amends. That is trying to benefit from her strength. Daughter? Pearl said gently, but Lyra was not finished. No, mother. They need to hear this. Garrett saved you without caring about your scales or your status. He risked his own life to help someone he just met. That is real honor, real kindness. These council members only care now because you are useful to them. One of the council elders bristled. Young one, you do not understand the complexities of our culture. I understand perfectly, Lyra said. I understand that my mother is the strongest navigator your people have produced. I understand that her albino status made her work twice as hard for half the recognition. I understand that she raised me alone after my father died, teaching me everything she knew despite being shunned by her own kind. And I understand that none of you cared about any of that until a human showed you up. Garrett put a hand on Lyra's shoulder, not restraining, just supporting. She is not wrong, he said to the council. Pearl came to me because she had nowhere else to go. Because the advanced medical facilities of multiple species gave up on her. I am just a mechanic with some medical training, working in a cluttered garage. I succeeded because I saw Pearl as someone worth saving, not as a medical curiosity or a cultural problem. That is the difference. The red-scaled elder looked genuinely offended. You suggest we did not care about her life? I suggest you did not care enough to try harder. You saw a dying albino and thought about statistics and protocols. I saw Pearl and thought about solutions. Different priorities lead to different results. Talon moved closer to Pearl, careful and tentative. You have every right to refuse our offer. Every right to be angry, but I am asking you to consider it anyway. Not for the council's benefit, for the students who need a teacher like you. Someone who understands what it means to be different. Someone who survived when others said it was impossible. Pearl looked at Garrett. What do you think? Not my decision, Garrett said. But I can tell you this. The academy is far from here. If you go, you will need regular maintenance on your support system. The council would need to bring me with you as your medical specialist, or train someone else who I trust to handle the work. Otherwise, you are risking your life again. The gold-scaled elder looked uncomfortable. We could arrange for you to visit the academy monthly for maintenance checks. Not good enough, Garrett said. The system is stable now, but it is still experimental. Pearl needs someone who understands it completely nearby at all times, especially for the first year. Someone who can make adjustments and respond to problems immediately. We could assign you quarters at the academy, the elder offered. A proper medical facility, resources. And would I be treated as an equal member of the staff or as a hired contractor you can dismiss when convenient? The council members exchanged uncomfortable glances. They clearly had not expected to negotiate with a human mechanic. Pearl made a sound that might have been laughter. They did not expect you to have conditions, Garrett. They expected you to be grateful for the opportunity. I am grateful for opportunities that show respect. I am not grateful for being treated like a tool. Talon spoke up again. What would it take for you to agree? Name your terms. Garrett thought for a moment. First, full staff position at the academy with complete authority over Pearl's medical care. Nobody questions my decisions regarding her treatment. Second, funding and facilities to research and improve the support system so we can help other Velenth with similar conditions. Third, Lyra comes with us as my apprentice and eventual partner in this work. Fourth, everything we develop is shared openly with any medical facility that wants to use it, not kept as proprietary academy knowledge. And fifth, public acknowledgement that this breakthrough came from collaborative work between humans and Velenth, not from one species being superior to another. The council was silent. These were not small demands. They were requirements that would shift power dynamics and challenge cultural assumptions. Finally, the gold-scaled elder spoke. Those terms are acceptable. Everyone looked surprised, including the other council members. The elder continued. We came here to learn. We have learned that our prejudices nearly cost us one of our finest navigators. We learned that human innovation saved a life we considered lost. We learned that we have much to be humble about. If accepting these terms means healing our culture while also healing our people, then the cost is worthwhile. Pearl looked at Talon. And you? Do you agree with this? I agree with whatever lets me try to earn back your friendship, Talon said simply. I cannot undo 40 years of silence, but I can start speaking now. Pearl was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked at Lyra. What do you think, daughter? You have a voice in this decision too. Lyra thought about it. Teaching at the academy would mean leaving Waypoint Station. Leaving the small community of humans who had been so kind. Leaving the cluttered garage that had become a place of miracles. But it would also mean her mother being recognized for her true worth. It would mean helping other Velenth. It would mean learning from Garrett while also sharing that knowledge. I think we should go, Lyra said. But on our terms. As equals, not as grateful recipients of charity. Pearl nodded slowly. Then she extended her wing toward the council in the traditional gesture of negotiation acceptance. We will come to the academy, all three of us, under the conditions Garrett specified, and one more condition of my own. Name it, the gold-scaled elder said. The first student I teach will be an albino. There must be others like me. Young ones who have been made to feel less than they are because of their scales. Find them, bring them to me. Let them see that albino Velenth can become master navigators, can survive impossible illnesses, can stand before the High Council as equals. That is my price. The elder bowed slightly, a gesture of deep respect. That is more than fair. It is just. After the council left to make arrangements, the three of them stood together in the garage that had become so much more than a workshop. It had become a place where impossible things happened, where species barriers fell away, where being different became a strength rather than a curse. Are we really doing this? Lyra asked. Apparently, Garrett said. He looked around at his cluttered, comfortable space. I am going to miss this garage. You can make a new one, Pearl said. Wherever we go, we will make it ours. Outside, the luxury Velenth ship waited to take them to a new life. But inside the garage, three beings from different worlds stood together as family, ready to face whatever came next. Together. 6 months had changed everything and nothing. The garage on Waypoint Station was closed now, but the space at the High Navigation Academy looked remarkably similar. Cluttered workbenches. Tools organized in a way that only made sense to Garrett. Equipment that mixed medical precision with mechanical practicality. Even the hand-painted sign had been recreated, though this one read, Frontier Medical Solutions, Academy Branch. Pearl stood at the window of her teaching facility, watching young Velenth practice navigation exercises in the flight simulation chamber below. Among them were 3 albino students. 3 young dragons who had been told they were unlucky, who had faced prejudice and doubt, who now flew with confidence because they had a teacher who understood them. Your class is waiting, Garrett said from the doorway. He held a datapad showing Pearl's bio readings. And your heart is strong today. 92% efficiency. Some days I forget the device is even there, Pearl said. It feels natural now. That is how it should feel. Pearl turned from the window. Her white scales gleamed in the academy's carefully designed lighting. She looked healthy, vibrant, alive in ways that had seemed impossible half a year ago. Have you heard from Nora and Dennis? Got a message this morning. They sent care packages. Apparently, Dennis does not trust academy food to be properly nutritious. Garrett smiled. Also, 7 more patients have arrived at Waypoint Station asking for help with supposedly incurable conditions. The humans there are handling initial assessments and sending us the data. How many have we successfully treated here? 18 Velenth with heart conditions similar to yours. 12 have recovered enough that they only need the support system part-time now. The other 6 need it permanently, but they are alive and healthy. That is what matters. Pearl moved toward the teaching chamber. I should go. Young minds waiting for old wisdom. There is nothing old about you anymore. Pearl paused at the door, looking back at the human who had saved her life. Garrett, do you ever regret leaving Waypoint Station? Coming here? Every place has different challenges, different rewards. But no, I do not regret it. We are doing good work here. After Pearl left, Garrett returned to his medical workshop. Lyra was already there, carefully calibrating a new support device. In 6 months, she had learned faster than anyone Garrett had ever taught. She had an intuitive understanding of how biological and mechanical systems could work together, probably because she had grown up seeing her mother navigate using both organic senses and technological instruments. This one is ready for testing, Lyra said, holding up the device. I modified the crystal resonance chamber based on the data from our last patient. Should be more efficient. Let's run diagnostics. Garrett took the device and connected it to the testing equipment. Numbers appeared on the screen showing performance metrics. 94% efficiency. That is better than my original design. Your design was built under emergency conditions in a garage. Mine had 6 months of refinement and a proper laboratory. Lyra paused. Though I miss the garage sometimes. Me too. They worked in comfortable silence for a while. The workshop had become their shared space, where human engineering and Velenth understanding merged into something neither species could have achieved alone. Other technicians and medical professionals now worked with them, learning the techniques, spreading the knowledge. A soft chime indicated a visitor. The workshop door opened to reveal Talon. The silver-scaled Velenth had become a regular presence, often visiting to check on Pearl or discuss academy business with Garrett. There is a situation, Talon said without preamble. A ship just arrived. On board is a quill parent carrying a child. The child is dying. The medical bay has declared the condition untreatable. Garrett and Lyra exchanged glances. This had happened before. Word had spread about the human mechanic and his dragon apprentice who could fix the unfixable. Desperate people came seeking miracles. What is the condition? Garrett asked. The child's respiratory system is failing. The quill have 4 separate breathing organs that must work in precise coordination. When one fails, it disrupts the entire system. According to the medical bay, 2 of the 4 organs are already non-functional. The child has days at most. The quill are biological masters, Lyra said. If their own doctors cannot help, why come to us? Because you saved an albino Velenth from certain death. Because you have treated 18 supposedly incurable cases since coming here. Because desperate parents will go anywhere hope exists, no matter how unlikely. Garrett was already moving, gathering equipment. Bring them to the workshop. I need to see the child. Garrett, you are not a quill specialist, Talon said carefully. I was not a Velenth specialist either. Did not stop me. 20 minutes later, a quill parent entered the workshop carrying a small child. The quill were insectoid in appearance with delicate exoskeletons and multiple limbs. The child was pale, their breathing labored and irregular. Each breath sounded wrong, like an engine misfiring. The parent spoke in the clicking, whistling language of their people. A translation device rendered their words into something Garrett could understand. Please, my child is dying. I heard you perform miracles. I need a miracle. Garrett approached slowly. I do not perform miracles. I solve problems. May I examine your child? The parent nodded frantically. Garrett began his examination, using scanners and his own trained observation. Lyra watched carefully, learning as she always did. The child's 4 respiratory organs were visible through the translucent sections of their exoskeleton. 2 were completely still. The other 2 were working frantically, trying to compensate. Rosie, I need a comparative analysis, Garrett said. The AI had been installed in the academy workshop, much to her apparent satisfaction at finally having proper computing resources. Accessing quill biological databases, Rosie responded. The child's condition is classified as cascade respiratory failure. Once 2 organs fail, the remaining 2 cannot sustain life for more than 72 hours. No treatment has proven effective. Why do the organs fail? The quill respiratory system requires precise chemical balancing between all 4 organs. When one fails, it releases toxins that poison the others. It is a design flaw in their evolution. A design flaw, Garrett repeated thoughtfully. He studied the scans more carefully. What if we do not try to fix the failed organs? Lyra looked at him. What do you mean? The quill system needs 4 organs for chemical balance. But what if we provided that balance externally? A device that filters the toxins and maintains the chemical equilibrium, allowing the 2 healthy organs to function without the interference of the failed ones. That would require understanding quill biochemistry at a level beyond our expertise, Lyra said. We have databases. We have experts we can consult. We have the Academy's resources. Garrett looked at the dying child, then at the desperate parent, and we have a reason to try. What followed was 36 hours of intense work. Garrett contacted specialists across 3 species, pulled research from a dozen sources, and designed a device that had never existed before. A biochemical filter and balancer, small enough to implant in a child, sophisticated enough to maintain the delicate chemical equilibrium that quill needed to breathe. Lyra worked beside him the entire time, her understanding of biological systems proving crucial. She could see patterns in the data that Garrett missed, could suggest modifications that improve the design. They argued, collaborated, and created something entirely new together. Pearl stopped by occasionally, bringing food and encouraging words. Talon coordinated with other Academy resources, providing whatever they needed. Even some of the council members visited, watching the work with obvious interest. "They are betting whether you will succeed," Pearl told Garrett during one break. "What are the odds?" 40%. Better than you had with me." Garrett smiled tiredly. "We are improving." The installation procedure was complex but went smoothly. The Quill child's body accepted the device, and within hours their breathing normalized. The two functioning organs worked efficiently now, supported by the external chemical balancer. The child woke up, looked at their parent, and made a clicking sound that the translator identified as laughter. The parent broke down, holding their child and making grateful sounds that needed no translation. Garrett and Lyra left them alone, stepping out into the hallway. Both were exhausted but satisfied. Another impossible case solved. Another life saved. "We are getting better at this," Lyra said. "We have a good team, and we are learning from each case." "Do you think there is a limit? A point where we will find something we truly cannot fix?" Garrett considered this. "Probably, but I would rather fail trying than never try at all. And every time we succeed, we learn something that helps with the next impossible case." Over the following months, more patients arrived. A Nomine with a cybernetic rejection condition, an Athari whose crystal structure was fragmenting, a human colonist with a disease no one had seen before. Each case was unique. Each required new thinking, and each taught them something valuable. The workshop expanded. Other technicians and doctors joined, trained by Garrett and Lyra. The techniques they developed spread to other facilities. What had started in a cluttered garage on a frontier station was becoming a new approach to medicine across multiple species. Pearl's teaching was thriving too. Her students learned not just navigation but also resilience, not just technical skills but also the value of being different. The 3 albino students she had insisted on teaching were among her best, proving that prejudice had wasted talent for generations. Talon and Pearl's friendship had slowly rebuilt itself, not the same as it had been 40 years ago, but something new and perhaps stronger, built on honesty and acknowledgement of past mistakes. One evening, nearly a year after arriving at the academy, the 3 of them stood together at the observation window. Below, ships came and went, carrying students, patients, supplies, and hope. "Do you remember what you told me when you first came to my garage?" Garrett asked Pearl. "You said you were dying and needed a miracle." "I remember. You said you did not perform miracles, only solved problems. I was wrong. What we do is miraculous. Not because we have magic or superior knowledge, but because we refuse to accept impossible as a final answer." Lyra looked at the ships below. "Another patient arrives tomorrow. A species we have never treated before. The condition is supposedly incurable. Then we will learn about their biology," Garrett said. "Design something new. Try something different. That is what we do." Pearl extended her wing, sheltering both of them. The gesture had become natural, a sign of their family bond. "I was dying in that corridor on Waypoint Station. Too weak to walk. Nobody helping. Nobody caring. Then you cared, Garrett. You, a stranger from a different species who had no reason to risk anything for me. You cared anyway. You were worth caring about. So are all of them." Pearl indicated the stars beyond the window. "Every patient who comes here desperate and afraid. Every child who should not survive but might if we try hard enough. Every person that conventional medicine has given up on. They are all worth caring about. That is why we do this," Lyra said. "Not for fame or recognition. Not to prove we are smart. Because they are worth it." Far across the galaxy, in a cluttered garage on Waypoint Station, other humans continued the work. They had taken over Garrett's space, running the Frontier Medical Solutions branch there, helping those who came seeking unlikely hope. Across dozens of medical facilities, doctors and technicians used techniques developed by a human mechanic and his dragon apprentice. Lives were saved that conventional medicine would have considered lost. Species worked together, learning from each other instead of competing. And in the academy workshop, late at night when most had gone to sleep, Garrett, Pearl, and Lyra prepared for tomorrow's impossible case. They did not know if they would succeed. They knew only that they would try because trying mattered more than being certain. Through the window, another ship approached, carrying someone who needed help. Someone who had heard stories of the mechanic, the dragon, and the apprentice who refused to accept the impossible. Someone who had nowhere else to go but hoped anyway. And in the workshop, ready as always, 3 beings who had become family prepared to do what they did best. They would care when others gave up. They would try when others said it could not be done. They would prove, one patient at a time, that the biggest miracles came not from advanced technology or ancient wisdom, but from simple determination and the refusal to stop caring. The ship docked. The patient would arrive soon, and they would be ready, because that was what they did. That was who they were. A human mechanic who left surgery to avoid bureaucracy, but never stopped being a healer. An albino dragon who survived prejudice and death to become a teacher of the next generation. A young dragon who chose to heal instead of navigate, learning to bridge species and save lives. Different species, different backgrounds, different paths, but united by one simple truth. Every life is worth fighting for, no matter how impossible the odds seem. And sometimes when you fight hard enough, when you care deeply enough, when you refuse to give up even when logic says you should, sometimes the impossible becomes possible. Sometimes miracles happen in cluttered workshops. Sometimes a dying dragon gets to fly again. Sometimes hope is enough.